need for eminent domain. They have to have that tool to function and to serve the community for the better good and its needs. But that's the key, the need. I don't see the need for us to lose my heritage. And it disturbs me. I had to go home and tell my 95-year-old father, who had, by the way, a pretty significant presence in this community, that they were going to take his farm, that it was at risk. And the blood drained from his face and said, I don't want you boys to let that happen. And that's why I've been down here for the last 15 years expressing my opinion. I have never seen a board spend money they don't have to take property they don't own for a project that's not needed.
Thank you. Next.
My name is Leona Martin. I live at 134 West 2nd Street in Greensburg. I'm here on behalf of my parents, Pam and Larry Robbins. This, besides myself, this affects their property and my heritage. My great-grandfather, my grandfather, my parents, and then it should come to me. But this airport expansion is taking that. Last January 21st, 2 weeks ago, Monday, today, the airport board had surveyors out on my parents' property. They were not allowed. They were not notified that the airport board was going to have those surveyors on our property, so they trespassed on our property. They gave us document to sign, and they said that they would notify us when they would be there to survey. They did not notify my parents. They did not notify me. This right there tells you you cannot trust this airport board. If they cannot say their word, that they written document that was signed stating that they would notify you when they were going to be on your property, they can't be trusted. And you say that this, whatever this is that they're wanting to do, is economic development, put it towards a convention center. That's what we are needing. We do not need an airport. You guys they can't come up with the letters that they are saying that they supposedly have from these businesses. They cannot come up with these letters. They cannot come up with these names. We've asked over and over, who is asking for this? They won't tell you. So if they don't tell you, you can't trust them. If they won't call me, call my parents, say, hey, we're going to be out there, we're going to be surveying. They can't. With written statements signed. They were signed by Bill Ernstis and Mr. Whipple. I'm sorry, I just don't understand. If this money is sitting there, put it towards convention center. That is what's needed. People are asking over and over and over for a convention center. Aren't they not? They are. Put it out there somewhere. Out there on Kathy's Way or whatever that street is called. Do you want them to go out there? Because nobody's going out there. Put that convention center out there. People will start showing up there on that road. We don't need this airport.
Thank you. Next. I'm Donna Stevens, and I live at 702 Park Road. The mayor said earlier, was talking about the cost of making Batesville, Greensburg a regional airport. Is that cost going to be more than what we're talking about to make it a business class airport here?
At the Batesville Airport?
Yeah. Why
Yes.
don't we do that?
Can you just make comments? I'm not gonna listen.
If you have that opportunity, and my heart goes out to these fine people that are going to be screwed over by eminent domain, because there's a few people that want something that we don't need, which has been said many times, and we don't. As I said, there's a good old boys club going on, and somebody's back's getting scratched, and somebody else is getting scratched a little more, just so a few can have what they want, and somebody else is going to pay for it. And the quote that there will be no taxes, I don't believe that. Never have, especially coming from politicians. Anyway, explain the difference between a need and a want. There again, if you want something, nobody wants to lose their land that they've had in the family for years. Mr. Guthrie shouldn't lose his. The Robinses shouldn't lose theirs. How would any of you like it if this was happening to you? Put the shoe on the other foot. In the paper, I'm a little concerned, and I brought the paper with me. This is the January 9th paper. And it says, essentially, if the grants do not materialize, that's some concerning wording. Are those grants guaranteed? I'm just curious. Do we know, is this grant money really guaranteed? Or, according to the paper again, if it's not, and you guys go out and take these fine people's property, and these grants don't come, that ground's got to be sold. I wouldn't be happy about that. And just my last question, how many of you are believers? I know you are. And it's just a simple question. How many of you are believers? And if you can't say whether you are or you aren't, then you must be ashamed to say you are or you aren't. Because if you are a believer, like the other gentleman said, you're going to be held accountable someday. And I sure wouldn't want to be in your shoes when the Lord asks you about this and you forfeit your eternity with Him. Thank you.
Thanks, Don.
Christine Townsend, 710 South Christie, Greensburg. Well, here we are again. I've lived here for 12 years, and I've been hearing about this airport for 12 years. And I've been against it for 12 years. I wrote a letter to the editor of the newspaper, but I guess they had so much other important news they couldn't get it in. So I'm going to read most of it that still pertains, and then I have copies for you, and then I have a couple of comments in addition to the letter. On February 4th, the City Council will move another step closer to shoving an airport extension down the throats of the Greensburg taxpayers. For over 12 years, this needless and unwanted project has loomed in the shadows, just waiting for the citizenry to go to sleep and think that it has died a peaceful death. But alas, it is still in the hearts and minds of a handful of aviation hobbyists who seek to saddle us with a $32 million expansion and a $3.5 million in bonds for the acquisition of prime farmland via eminent domain. Nothing's changed in the last 12 years. Just like other speakers have said, if we didn't need it 12 years ago, we didn't need it 10 years ago, we didn't need it 7 years ago, and we don't need it today. But somebody, and a few, want it so bad that the rest of us will be paying through the nose. I guarantee it. Just like Trump's wall, we, the taxpayers, will be footing the bill. They keep saying that the grant money is free money. And I was at a meeting several years ago where they said, we need to get this grant money before Batesville or Rushville or Shelbyville gets it. Let Batesville, Rushville, Shelbyville have it. Let them have that tax burden. Don't put it on us. And what if the grant money isn't enough? And other questions have been raised here tonight. Is the grant money guaranteed? What happens whenever? Yada, yada, yada. Several years ago, of course in the 12-year span, a friend of mine living in Sandpoint, Idaho, they put in one of these putt-putt airports. And once they put it in, got the grant money, then the FAA came in and said, now you know, you don't have an adequate radar system. Now you need a radar system. Well, won't the grant money pay for that? No, the grant money won't pay for that. So once you start this under that grant money, if the grant money's there, then the next thing you know, the FAA owns you, and you need a radar system, and you need a this, and you need a that, and you need a this and that and the other. Is that the warning? So, you know, I think it isn't just the end of it. I came to the meeting last month and I encountered 4 people on the way here. One was a healthcare worker, and I said I was going to the airport meeting. I was going to the city council meeting. They were going to discuss the airport. She said, isn't that dead? I ran into a resident. I said, I'm going to the airport meeting. You mean they're still talking about that? I met a friend for dinner. What do you mean? I thought that was dead. And then the waiter at the restaurant said the same thing. So most people thought it was dead, except for these few hobbyists who just ain't gonna give up, I guess. Here's what I wrote to the paper.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, you know, just one real quick thing. Talk about using the money, and the mayor knows this, my favorite project would be an overpass or an underpass under that railroad. Over or under that railroad. Because I've been stuck by a train many times, can't get to where I'm going. And if your kid's standing over there at the high school in the sleet, waiting for you to pick him up because practice has been canceled, and a train's sitting across every track in town, you may want to get through there.
Right.
If you're having a heart attack or you're bleeding to death, EMS can only do so much. You need to get across those tracks and get to the hospital and get helicoptered out of here or whatever.
Right.
So if we've got all this money,
Yeah.
let's do an overpass or an
about it.
underpass.
We did talk about it. Thank you. Okay, next, please.
Afternoon, Mayor, Council. My name's Jay Hatton. I farm out on West Base Road, 4235. I'm here because I've been in your all's position. I'm a loyal Catholic to our Catholic Church, and I've sat in these tough positions. And when you try to move a community to a new facility like St. Mary's did, and you give up something old and traditional, and I sat across from many women who cried in my eyes and said, how in the world can you want a new church when we have this old church that's so lovely? The day that church was built, I have yet to hear one person come up on me. I was on the original campaign for that church, and I think if you don't do this, you will be looking in the rearview mirrors for a really long time. Our community has many opinions about whether this is needed or not, but I think progress, just like broadband in our rural community, needs to be happening. 12 years, I hear 12 years, 12 years. Everybody's talking 12 years. 12 years ago, who had an internet in their house, and how vital is that today? We have no idea what this airport can do for this community until you build the darn thing. If not, you'll be wishing, well, if we had one. That you can't live life like that. You have to go at this full guns, and you have to do what's right. And build it, just like broadband. I know EDC is right behind this as a big initiative in our community to try to provide for our students to bring tablets. 12 years ago, who took a tablet home? Now it's mandatory for these kids to have this. And we just don't know what its possibilities are. Just like we have to think forward. Indians were so smart. They planned 7 generations ahead. We can't even think hardly a decade ahead of ourselves. So I think that you guys are doing a great job. I hope that you guys can see progress in the future for this economy and for our community. And Lord knows I don't want to start spelling Decatur County R-U-S-H. And I just think we got to stay a leader. We are an agriculture leader. We're now a manufacturing leader. And we need to stay in that forefront and keep this community moving forward. I'll give up my last minute.
Okay, thank you.
So sad. Let's give up the farm ground. It's a great idea.
Yeah, but
Okay.
his farm,
He's a farmer.
but his farm isn't.
Next,
His friends with Reynolds. Please. This is your last chance.
okay, nobody else has to say anything? Okay.
My name is Sarah Jane Wilson, 5425 South, County Road 700 East, Greensburg. And quite a few of the other guys took care of some of my questions, thank you. First of all, I am a little confused. I presume that grant means free money, is that right?
I would say it helps. It's not free.
Okay, so it's not free,
We gotta pay into it.
No free lunch.
but, and I don't, the second thing I don't understand, I'd like for you to explain is, it talks about the Greensburg Municipal Airport, and municipal to me means city. It does to Webster's Dictionary. And if that's the case, does that mean we farmers out around Decatur County don't have to worry about ever paying for this if something goes wrong? I don't know the answer to that, and I don't know if you do either. Now I'd like to get to the point of some things I want to ask about. I read the Greensburg paper religiously, and I've read the 2 articles that were in January and February. I was an English teacher, so I got a lot of words I want to give to you. So many words in the newspaper articles are what is called in the Webster's Dictionary ambiguous. That means not clear, confusing, and doubtful. And I'm going to give you the ones I picked out in those 2 newspaper articles. Anticipated, approximately, after, as if, although, be at risk, depending on, estimated, expects, heavily dependent, will have the feel of, if necessary, if and when, is around, potentially, probably, it's technically, and until. Does that bother you? Weird words. What do they mean? That's my first page. And thank you for those who took care of a whole bunch more. Because the next thing I want to ask is, I might not have them in order. Who are they? The newspaper says they. Who are they? Okay, we know it is the Greensburg Aviation Board. I don't know who's on it. They never tell the names. Are you here? The next one. The Greensburg Board of Aviation Commissioners. Who in the world are they? They never give us the name, do they? No, they don't. I'd like to just know one. Why does the new paper not tell us? Maybe that's their fault. But if they are on these boards and commissions, are they proud of it? Don't they want us to know who's working for them? No, they don't. Next one. I'm looking for the number.
Okay,
Next one. We, the names of the business of paper, we want to know who the names of the businesses and people who will utilize this expansion, but we don't get that either. And 6, in the future, when this is all taken care of, and we've gotten all the money that we hoped we would get, who's going to pay for the growth of the airport? Who's going to pay for the upkeep, mowing, snow removal, ice removal, and so forth and so forth? Who's responsible for that? And I go back to that thing about Greensburg Municipal Airport. That's not fair. If everybody in Greensburg has to pay these new expenses for someone else's choice, well, that's not fair at all. That's not being fair if it means Greensburg, the people in Greensburg have to pay for it.
Ma'am, are you
Okay.
addressing the
Country does.
council or the
Okay.
audience?
okay.
Pardon?
If you're gonna address the council, you need to address the council. Your time is up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Maybe.
Thank you.
My opinion is, we
Your
ought
time is up.
to, I'm ending. My
Okay,
opinion
thank you.
My opinion is, we need to put it to a vote, or everybody in Decatur County can vote on it and decide what they want to do. And last of all, I really feel bad about the Goddard family. Judge Goddard was a very nice man,
Yes, it was.
and the whole family doesn't deserve all this on a farm that's probably the greatest honored farm in Decatur County. And I am a farm wife, and I have farm that came back down the line in the family, and it would break my heart. And my husband just died in April. It would break his heart if it was given up without any chance.
We're sorry to hear that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, anybody else? Okay. Anybody else, please? Okay. If that's, nobody else has anything to say, then I will close this part of it, and council, I will allow you to discuss all the stuff that you heard tonight, and plus all the stuff that's been going on for 12 years. And,
I was there too.
was you at the first one too?
And my father, Arthur Weber, Salt Creek Township trustee, when the man like you said, is there anybody think they can do better job? He got off and did it. I guess that's, I
Okay,
get it
thanks.
from him.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, council, discussion?
I'd like to have a representative from Hahn have some questions for them.
Okay. Andre?
Yes.
John couldn't be here tonight, so Andre is gonna try to answer the
Good
question.
evening, council, mayor. My name is Andre Riley. I'm with Ashlee and Bond Associates, and we are the financial advisors for the city of Greensburg.
Thank you for coming, appreciate you being with us tonight. I had a couple questions about the financial state of the airport board, I was hoping you could enlighten me a little bit. When we set our budget here in the city, one of the things that we wanna make sure is that we are financially sound. So one of those is, for instance, having adequate cash reserves, having adequate cash flow, et cetera. Can you give your opinion on if the airport board took on this bond issue, how that would affect its finances and its financial stability?
sorry John couldn't be here today. I can't really speak to the finances of that department. What I can say based on our estimates is that the way the financing is structured, the principal wouldn't be due till 2024. So essentially it would be an interest-only loan for at least 7 years. So really the net revenues generated from the people that use that facility would then pay the interest on that loan until the grants are received. So I can go back and look, and John and I can talk about, like the last 3 years or 5 years, the financial wherewithal of the facility.
This will require 2 readings, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
if you could, I would like to know that.
Okay.
Particularly how it would affect cash flow, cash reserves. And the other question I had was, I noticed that the bond would wrap into an outstanding amount of $270,000 for a previous obligation. And you might not know this, but do we know when that was originally intended to be retired?
My understanding, it was a 10-year financing. And in a lot of municipal financings, what you'll have is you'll have an outstanding loan. And then if you have additional improvements that need to be made, and depending on certain covenants within that financing document, you can roll that existing note. So let's say you have $200,000 outstanding. Well, you can roll it into the principal at whatever that interest rate is and pay that for additional 7 years.
Yeah, that's understood. I guess my question is, when that loan was originally taken out, how long did they anticipate that? How long did they anticipate it would take to pay that off?
Usually you have certain parameters. So let's say it's a 7-year note. Well, you have to pay it off in 7 years from that issuance date, or a 10-year. So I'm not sure, it was, I think 10 years ago. So it was anticipated that it'd be paid in 10 years. So you have to pay it based on the covenants within the loan document.
It was prior to Daryl and I getting on the council when they actually purchased the airport, so it was 12 years ago.
I think it was done in November or December of 2007, I believe when that happened.
For a discussion I had with, I did it in December of 2007.
Disrespect.
And your payments, $24,000 every 6 months.
I'll take these couple of questions back and
I appreciate that.
we'll send it through the mayor, and he can
That's fine.
provide it on.
Okay. Any other questions for
Let's put it this way.
council? Okay. We'll see you next month, or John?
Okay.
Do the mics work?
Yes, ma'am. Did, sorry.
I'm in the front row.
It did, I could hear it, ma'am, sorry.
Just got talking a little loud.
Okay. Yeah, when I'm tall, when you're 6'5", it's hard to understand.
Hard to talk.
Especially when I'm- if you want me to repeat something, I can, if necessary. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, council.
Is somebody from the airport board here that could speak to the questions I had? Or at least the one regarding how long the original debt was supposed to be paid off?
So my name is Paul Schaefer. I'm with Butler, Fairman and Seifert Engineering, and I'm with a consulting firm that does the engineering. We also do the grant administration on the FAA grants. And I did bring a handout of the previous airport purchase, and
Speak into the mic instead of
okay. And I brought a handout of that previous purchase. So the